Hello and welcome to Automation Specialist for API. My name is Jordan Grantham and I'm the head of the Tricentis Academy here in Vienna. Today we'll explore the functionalities of the API scan and look at how to automate API test cases. First of all, we need to answer these primary questions. What is API? And why should we test the API instead of using the UI testing techniques learned in the previous courses? API stands for Application Programming Interface. This interface is created with an application in mind, rather than the user. An API is used to interact only with the application. Just like a user interface is designed to be human-readable, with clear visuals and logical structure. This interface is created to be machine-readable. It speaks the language of the software. This is one of the reasons why API testing can be a major time saver. Not only are the test cases executed faster than an equivalent manual or automated UI test case, the testing itself can also be implemented earlier in the development process, which fits in with Agile methodology. This is because we can test the application directly through the APIs, even before a user interface has been created. Also, an API test takes just a fraction of the time of its UI counterpart, because we are bypassing the usual loading times of the user interface. This means that in the same time frame, we can run many more test cases, resulting in earlier identification of the problems. Because of this machine-to-machine communication, many of the challenges of UI automation are overcome, and API can improve our automation. All of this obviously translates into a sharp and effective reduction of testing process times, leading to substantial savings in development and post-development costs. Not needing a UI to test a new program also means that we can run the test cases earlier in the development cycle, as APIs are often defined before there is a functional UI available. This will help us to test earlier in the development cycle and find errors much earlier in the development phase. It's important to note that the API scan is also a standalone program. No license is needed, and no Tricentis Tosca installation or particular testing knowledge is required for operating the API scan itself. This makes it easier to involve developers in the testing process, because they don't need to go through the installation of the whole Tricentis Tosca package, and there's no need to activate the product. With the standalone program, all you need to do is send the executable file to whomever needs it, and they can run it. For example, a developer can then scan the API of the application, save the resulting messages, and send them back as a subset that can then easily be manipulated so that it can be tested. We will see how to do that later in the course. The simple action of being able to scan an API is a major time saver. Until now, API testing was done by scripting and coding tests manually. This meant countless hours spent by developers scripting the test cases, and then countless more whenever an API was updated, as those tests suddenly became outdated. The API scan functionalities drastically reduce not only the test creation time, but almost remove the maintenance times, making the application development faster with a shorter update cycle. Overall, it becomes more capable of adapting to the ever-changing world without the fear of damaging expenses to recreate a big part of the test cases. And what about maintaining test cases? Well, instead of having to rescript all the tests, we can simply scan the parts of the API that were modified, where possible, reusing and simply adapting the artifacts we created during the previous testing cycle. This can be done at a much earlier stage, shifting left not only the primary development process, but also the overall maintenance. The API scan not only brings the developers closer to the QAs, but also the QAs closer to the developers. All by abstracting the API and giving it a simple interface that the QAs can use and test to help fill in the gaps in the DevOps cycle. Automation specialists with only limited technical skills are now able to test using APIs that up until now were too technically demanding. This means that you have both developers and QAs involved in the testing process, both maximizing the potential and stretching their limits. It's all more inclusive, all more agile. Finally, enjoy the course. If you want to expand on your Tricentis Tosca skills and testing knowledge, remember to register for our MOOCs. Follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for useful additional videos.